August 2022, and I'm once again exploring my home city from the centre of a cultural quarter built by Prince Albert, South Kensington. Following the 1851 Great Exhibition in Hyde Park, an 87-acre area of land to the south of the park, in what was then Brompton, was purchased, using profits from the exhibition itself to create a home for institutions dedicated to the arts and sciences. Spearheaded by Prince Albert, who was the driving force behind the Great Exhibition, the area was even called Albertopolis for a while. Where previously there'd been market gardens, the area was, in a short period of time, converted into one of the key cultural hubs of Victorian Britain, with the opening of museums, cultural institutes, colleges and universities, all due to be crowned by the grand circular Central Hall of Arts and Sciences. Sadly, Prince Albert passed away less than 10 years later and never got to see his vision come to fruition. In part not helped by his grieving widow, Queen Victoria, diverting a lot of the funds intended for the Central Hall of Arts and Sciences into building the ostentatious memorial to Prince Albert that now sits at the north end of the site. Keen to divert attention away from the misuse of public funds by Vicky, donors quickly sought donations to allow work on the Central Hall of Arts and Sciences to commence. But even then, the monarch couldn't help but interfere, and at the laying of the hall's foundation stone, she announced the hall would be called the Royal Albert Hall. Still standing to today, the hall keeps its mission of being available for hire so long as the event is open for public and reflects either the arts or the sciences. To the southern end of Albertopolis is perhaps the most famous of the museums that was built in the quarter, the Natural History Museum. Almost cathedral-like in its appearance, the original 1881 building designed by Albert Waterhouse has been expanded and extended over the years to create the museum that sits on the site today. In part, the foundation of the collection was that of Sir Hans Sloane, who sold his collection to the British government at a knockdown rate paid for by a lottery, so at least one person scooped the jackpot there. The collection was originally housed in Montague House in Bloomsbury, which at the time was the British Museum. Whilst a lot of the collection had disappeared or been dispersed to other museums by the early 19th century, in part due to feuding, infighting, incompetence and malice on behalf of the various curators and trustees over the decades, what remained, and what had been added to it over the years, was badly in need of a new home, and in 1873 work began on the building. The museum remained part of the British Museum, as the British Museum brackets Natural History, until 1963 when it gained its independence with its own board of trustees. Whilst it officially continued to be known by its full name, to most people it was the Natural History Museum for many years before it finally adopted that brand in 1989, and only with an Act of Parliament in 1992 before its official title was changed. For decades, and certainly for all of my childhood, the overriding first impression of entering the museum was to be greeted by Dippy the Diplodocus, standing proudly in the central hall, greeting generations of school kids to the museum. But in 2017, the museum decided to dethrone Dippy and instead replaced it with the skeleton of Hope, a 25-metre-long juvenile blue whale, and it's that now greets visitors entering the museum. However, the museum is still best known for its dinosaurs, and the collection still makes up a significant part of the ground floor of the museum, including animatronic T-Rexes, through to various other species in both cast, bone and animatronic form. At the time of visiting, it was even home, once again, to Dippy, back from a 5-year-long tour of the UK and being displayed in its full glory, albeit in a side gallery. Alongside the dinosaurs, the museum is also home to a wide range of exhibits on the natural history of the planet, and with a particular focus on the risks to animals from humans. The Large Mammals Hall houses exhibits of some of Earth's larger animals, including elephants, rhinos and several other whale species, including a model of the blue whale, just to demonstrate quite how enormous the largest animal ever known to have existed actually is. Up from the ground floor of the museum, there are views across the Great Hall, the central space, and from there access into the smaller galleries for a look at other elements of life on Earth, as well as the large collections of rocks and minerals that the museum houses. Originally independent, but now fully integrated into the Natural History Museum, the Geological Museum looks at the planet from its formation and structure to how forces within it work, including a simulation of the 1995 Kobe earthquake. Access to the museum is via an escalator that takes you up through a globe as you travel back in time to the formation of the planet. Next door to the Geological Museum is the second of the big three museums, the Science Museum. Now part of a group of museums that include the Science and Industry Museum in Manchester, Locomotion in Shildon near Darlington, and the National Railway Museum in York, the Science Museum was originally founded in 1857. It started as the collection from the Royal Society and surplus items from a great exhibition, including examples of, for the time, cutting-edge machinery and industrial equipment, quickly being renamed the Museum of Patents in 1858 and then the Patent Office Museum in 1863. In 1885, the science collections were spun off from the art collection and renamed the Science Museum, eventually moving to its current building between 1919 and 1928. The museum has continued to expand on its remit of science and technology as advances through the 20th and 21st century have added to its growing collection, as once cutting-edge technology gets pushed into being yesterday's tech. Exhibits include the earliest wooden fabric planes, early telegraph and telephones, and even a reconstruction of possibly the world's first computer, Charles Babbage's difference engine. From full-size models of satellites to show just how large they can get, through to the command module of the Apollo 10 mission, the museum charts technology and science both on Earth and in space. But if that was the science collection, where did the art collection go? Well, that's just across the road, in the last and largest of the big three museums. Originally called the Art Museum and then the South Kensington Museum, plans were once again upended by Britain's most meddling monarch, as Vicky stipulated at the laying of the foundation stone for a major extension in 1899. You would have thought they might have learnt by now and perhaps stopped inviting her, that the museum would now be called the Victoria and Albert Museum. Today, the V&A is the world's largest museum of applied arts, decorative arts and design, home to more than 2 million objects. These include recreations of whole rooms from various ages. And in the two large cast courts, two enormous rooms, both 2 stories high, housing hundreds of plaster casts of sculptures, friezes and tombs from around the world, which I suppose is significantly better than just nicking the stuff and bringing it straight back to Britain. central courtyard helps you take in the sheer size and scale of this museum, and how, despite many extensions and expansions over the years, the building has been designed to look cohesive. And if you dare risk it, you can climb to the upper floors of the museum, where the floorboards creak uneasily under the weight of countless priceless collections of porcelain, ceramics and glass. When walking through the displays makes you worry that any moment you'll trip and wipe a couple of billion off the value of the UK's assets. Next time, I continue my journey around London, exploring the connection between Lord Wellington and Hyde Park, discover the redevelopment and rebirth of Regent's Canal from Mugger's Paradise to hipster waterside, and explore more of Britain's art at both the Tate Britain and Tate Modern.